One of my favorite meats at any barbecue joint that I've ever been to is the beef brisket. It's also one of the most expensive things you can get at a barbecue joint. So I wanted to figure out how to make my own version of it, save a few bucks, and be able to eat as much of it as I wanted to. So that's really important too. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how I put together a beef brisket with my barbecue sauce. And of course I have a smoker, but I wanna show you in this video how to get that smoky flavor without having to smoke it. And I've gotten pretty close. I mean, there's just nothing quite like a good brisket. So if you wanna find out how to make it without it sitting in a smoker for 8 hours, you have to constantly watch, make sure the temperatures are right, make sure you've got the wood in. And I've got an electric smoker, which is pretty easy, but to smoke a good brisket, you gotta keep your eyes on it all day long. This, set and forget. I'm also gonna show you the proper kitchen gadget to use to make sure that your beef brisket doesn't get as overcooked as mine did. It's still great, but it could have been perfect if I'd followed my own advice. And I'll show you how to do it right after this. Man, if you like barbecue and you like beef, you have come to the right place on this video. I know you're ready to see it and I'm ready to show you how I do it. So let me just show you all the ingredients that you're gonna need to put together this beef brisket. So first let's put together a dry rub. These are the ingredients you're gonna need. Some of this Splenda Magic Baker Brown. You're gonna need some smoked paprika, some onion powder, some garlic powder, ground mustard, ground cumin, some real salt, and some black pepper. So let's put all these together. We'll measure them out and then we'll start to mix them up here. So just give all these seasonings a good mix. Make sure you get that brown sugar incorporated well in there. Break up all those little lumps and bumps and you're gonna be just fine. And this is what it should look like when you're all done. And this dry rub ain't just for brisket. You can use it on any kind of meat that you're gonna cook for a long time. I haven't found one that it doesn't go good with yet. And now for the brisket. Of course, you know, you're gonna need a brisket. This is a choice one, it's about 2 pounds, so everything I talk about is for about a 2-pound brisket. It could be a little bit more, but if you use the tool that I tell you later on, you won't have to worry about it because it'll be cooked at the proper temperature, unlike mine. Now since we just made this dry rub, why don't we just go ahead and use that to dry rub down this brisket. You definitely don't want to skip this step. This gives it a great smoky flavor without having to go in the smoker. Now I'm just going to put this disclaimer in just because of a comment I got on a previous video. No, you do not want to cook this brisket in the plastic. You're going to need to take it out of the plastic. So what I'm going to do is take it out of the plastic and put it right in the crock pot. Man, that's a good looking hunk of meat right there. And so I'm just going to dump that dry rub all over the top of it. And you're going to want to rub it in. You know, every bit of meat you eat deserves a good spa treatment. You got to rub that stuff in. That's going to help that flavor. I don't know what that was. Get that piece out of there. But yeah, just rub that thing in real good. Get it all nice and happy. We're going to flip it over and do the other side. And you don't need anything in the crock pot at this point other than the meat and this dry rub. And then go ahead and put that dry rub all over the other side. You don't want to just season one side of that unless you can turn the meat over and you know which side it's seasoned on. You put that piece right on your tongue. I just recommend seasoning both sides. And then just take a spoon or a shovel or whatever you want. Finish making sure that that thing's fully covered on the top and the bottom. Hey, if you look at it and it's not totally covered, just keep scooping that out. It'll cover the whole thing, don't worry. The next thing we need to do is take our Expert Grill quadruple probe monitor. Now, look, if you got 4 things going on at one time and you need to get the temperature on them, this thing can do it. You can put 4 probes in this thing. We just need 1 for now. So I'm gonna put that probe down right into the middle of the meat at the thickest part of it, which is right in the middle. So we'll know exactly when this brisket is at the right temperature that we want before we do the last step. And somehow I lost the footage of this next part, but you're going to want to put this on low in your slow cooker for about 8 hours. You want that internal temperature to be about 180 degrees before we move on to the next step. So what I did here is preheated my oven to 390 degrees, and that's where I screwed up. What I should have done is put this bad boy on a high broil and just flipped it a couple times, but I didn't. I decided to try something new. and it did not work out this time. I hope you can forgive me for screwing up and just do high broil on one side and then the other. So I hit 180 degrees right here just like I wanted to. And look how beautiful that is. Look at all that liquid in the bottom. I mean, that just makes like a nice pan gravy. I just take that probe out, put that out to the side, and then I'm just gonna take this awesome brisket out and put it right on a parchment paper lined baking tray. Now what I should have done is not tried anything new with this, because I know that broil works perfect to get that crust on it that I like after I put this olive oil on. So go ahead and put your olive oil on. Make sure you get that broiler on high and get it preheated. But I'm going to show you what happens if you don't do it the way that it's supposed to be done. The brisket's really not the time you want to experiment, but hey, I have to do it all the time, so I just want to show you what happened. So I went ahead and put this in the oven. Now what you really need to do is put it on high broil, and it's going to be about 3-4 minutes. And you can use that meat thermometer, put it back in there, and make sure it doesn't get up over 190. 200's okay. Some people like 200, but I think that 190, maybe 195 after it rests for a few minutes is good. So now we're going to take my barbecue sauce, and I'll put a link to that video up there in the corner and down in the description, because this is what we're going to dress it with once it comes out of the oven. And I'm going to put the real recipe down there that I always do. I was just trying to experiment just to see if I could do something a little different that might be easier for some people. But hey, just use that broiler and watch it, and it's going to come out perfect. Hey, and not so fast now. Don't go throwing all those great pan drippings, juices, meat sauce, whatever you want to call it. Don't throw that away. You're going to take 3-4 tablespoons of this out. You're going to mix it in with that barbecue sauce before we put it on the brisket. So my barbecue sauce recipe, if you have not tried it, is super thick. Now, if you ever have the barbecue sauce come out a little bit thin, just cook it down a little bit longer. But just take that juice that we just got out of the crock pot, mix it in there, and man, it's going to make some great flavor. Hey, if you're not subscribed to my channel, hit the little button down there to subscribe and hit that bell beside it. And that way, whenever I do a new video, you'll know about it. Now let's just say in theory here that we had broiled it and the outside was looking nice and crisp just like we want it, a nice crust on the outside. What we want to do is take it out of the oven at that point and go ahead and baste it down with some of this barbecue sauce on the one side. We're going to flip it over, we're going to broil the other side. And you don't want to use parchment paper when you broil, you want to use some aluminum foil. I just thought I was going to try to beat the system this time instead of going with what works. But hey, it still came out great. Everybody ate it, everybody enjoyed it. But I'm telling you, the broiler is the way to go with this. But don't use that parchment paper. You might have a little fire in the oven that you're not expecting. And after you've coated the one side with that barbecue sauce and pan juice mixture, oh man, it's so good. Go ahead and flip that bad boy over, because we're going to go ahead and dress the other side with the same mixture. Then we're going to put it back in for just a few minutes. And yeah, make sure you use your paintbrush or whatever you got to make sure that that barbecue sauce and juice mixture is evenly distributed over the whole thing. Try to get the sides and everything. When it comes out, you're going to absolutely love the results. And then back in the oven we go. Now you could use that same thermometer to make sure you don't get over 190, 195 at the most. But my problem was I was doing too many things at one time and I lost track of it. Now don't get me wrong, this thing looks absolutely wonderful and it tasted great. It was just a little bit overcooked from what I wanted, but it was still fall apart delicious. And after it comes out, I like to brush it again with some more barbecue sauce. Now you can just put some barbecue sauce in a cup on the side if you want to. Hey, however you like to do it. I love a lot of sauce. You know that by now. So I'm going to douse it with the sauce. Well, I wouldn't say that was dousing, but you know what I'm saying. I love some sauce. I'll do this, and then I'll throw some more sauce in a cup. I might put a little sauce in a coffee cup and drink that on the side. Who knows? Anyway, I would throw that back in under that broiler again for just a minute until you get another crust on it. That's what's gonna give it that smoky taste that you don't have to have the smoker for. You can just put it right in the oven. The sauce, the combination of all the ingredients together, just give it a nice smoky feel. And I would recommend just keeping your eye on it until it gets the way you like the crust. And then go ahead and take it out. So at this point, I'm just gonna go ahead and take it out of the oven and move it to the counter. Well, I'm gonna let it rest for a few minutes. I'd at least let it rest for 10 minutes. You may wanna do 15, but it's gonna continue to cook just a little bit. But look at that beautiful crust. Now I did pull it off the way I wanted to with that oven, but I swear it's much better if you use that broiler instead. And the real problem with doing it in the oven instead of just using the broiler function of the oven is that it continues to cook it just a little too long. That broiler is pretty instant. It's gonna crust it up. I mean, that crust looks absolutely beautiful, but the problem is it cooked the inside more than I like it. I guess the good thing about this is my son would eat it because he hates medium meat. He doesn't even like beef at all. I don't know what's wrong with him. But anyway, at least he would eat this because it was well done. And I'm almost embarrassed to show this to you, except I just want you to know that in the kitchen, a lot of things can happen. Nobody's perfect. I cook all the time, and I can still screw something like this up. But you learn from it, you move on, just like with a keto diet. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, but if you learn from them and you move on, you're better off in the end. But enough about that. Anyway, it's absolutely beautiful. It's a great thing. You want to cut this thing against the grain, and you're going to see in just a second why I say it's a little overdone. It's more than I like. Some people like a well done, a medium well. I really like mine medium or medium rare. With a brisket, I think it needs to be a little more done than that. And this is a little more done than what I like, but it is absolutely delicious. If you follow the recipes and use the broiler instead of using that 390-degree oven, it's going to come out a whole lot better for you. You'll really enjoy it. So you see what I'm saying? It's still fall apart. It's really delicious. But I kind of like my brisket to stay together just a little bit instead of falling apart. Just use the broil on your oven. Use that thermometer and make sure it doesn't get over that 190, and it's going to come out just fine. And don't forget about what you're doing like I did and let it sit in the oven too long. But it does still pull apart. It's still delicious. Everybody ate it. Nobody lost here. But listen, again, it could have been a whole lot worse. It could have been dried out. It could have been nasty. But listen, when you're starting to cook, or even when you've been cooking a long time like I have, things are going to happen in the kitchen. They're just going to. My wife, the first meal she made for me, she did some zucchini in the oven. She forgot to salt it. There was no seasonings on it. And guess what? I ate it anyway. Wasn't the best, but hey, it's the thought that counts and the love that counts. Remember that. Hey, if you want some side dishes that go great with beef brisket, I'm going to put a playlist right over here. Click on that, watch that one next, and you'll get some great side ideas to go with it. Hey, thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.